Doing it's Sunday night. I'm sorry if the fan is loud, but it has gone beyond a point where we can be fan free. Anyway, tomorrow I am closing down this iteration, this round of press play, and I have loved doing these sessions, and I got back to everybody today, but I just wanted to add a few more chats about this, essentially to say whether or not it's right for you, whether it's something you want to explore, and who it could be good for. And firstly, I thank everyone for their patience, as like a few people who've done the sessions, like one of the first things that they said was, I don't know if this is right for me. And I totally get that, because it was in this early stage of me like forging out this idea and working it through, I really had to go on the journey as well, and refine the idea. But again, that's a really good thing that I can share with you, that if you're not sure, you can work it out as you go. And I think sometimes we see things online or out there and we feel like, well, I've got to be perfect immediately, I've got to be doing all of the things, but you don't. So I've got some notes, but I'll speak about it first and foremost, and then I'll go back over my notes and see if there's anything that I've missed. Ultimately, what's been happening with press play is, for a long time now, I have felt a disconnect, and one of the things that has been happening for my clients so much. So the work that I do with coaching, as in my whole offering, my coaching brand, is I help people to design and to deliver their portfolio career, their income pie, personal brand, small business, however they refine them or define themselves. And what I mean by this is, first and foremost, in terms of the design process, it's really about designing a business model that is going to fit your life. And that looks and feels very different for everybody. So I know online a lot of these coaches, they talk about formulas and like, just do these 3 things and you'll get to 10K months, or it's very box ticking. And my work is not like that. I have no agenda. I have no set way or formula that people have to follow. I am very much about meeting the client where they are up to. And as I talk about my podcast as well, this is about defining your version of success. And that can look very different year on year, month on month. So I've spoken about this a lot. As of this week, my daughter will go to school, and I will have 2 children in school. And that means, it means lots of things. But in terms of my version of success, it will look quite different in terms of my capabilities, my capacity. My capacity will be wider, so I will be able to do different things. But also my version of success in terms of the rhythm of my week and things that I will be required for. I'm also noticing within my family that I'm required as a mum in a different way already. We've moved out of those kind of toddler stages, and I am going, not step up, because it's not like my kids are like, come on mum, step up. But you change as a parent as your children do. And so when we talk about versions of success, it's really about defining what you want. So I do all of that work, the designing, and then I help you to deliver it. And previously, the delivering piece has been in and amongst what we're doing. But what I find quite often, and what I found having sort of been researching this for 6 months, is that post, you know what, I'm not going to say the word in case Instagram kind of takes me off or whatever, but ever since the world changed, I believe, and I've noticed that business has changed a lot. So point and press formulas, I don't think that they work anymore. People need different things. I don't personally like it when a bot replies to me. I would love a real life human being. And I'm always that person on a website going, but how do I get in touch? Like, I just want to speak to a human. So what I have been developing recently is this offering about press play. Because I know how easy it is to spend money on branding, on website, on copy, on getting everything up and running and looking beautiful and all coherent and clear, and you know what you want to offer. But often there's a missing piece, which is part 2 with how you're actually going to deliver it, how you're going to bring it to life. So if I look in other ways, it's almost like pulling together a beautiful portfolio and being able to, say you're going for investment. So you've got your beautiful deck, you've got all your numbers, you've got everything in place, it looks great. And yes, on one level, you could just email this deck and hope that everybody would admire and enjoy what you have created. But there is a power in that founder, in that owner, in that dreamer, that entrepreneur, that creative, whoever it might be, who then can bring it to life, who can speak from the heart, who can share what it is that they do, who can go behind the scenes, who can go broader and deeper and wider and connect with the audience. And this is a gap that I think a lot of people, because they're trying to scale, because they're trying to grow, but not burn themselves out, because everybody's so tired as well, they forget this very piece. That it's you that people, it's me and it's you that people want to invest in and want to work with. So I realized maybe 3 months ago, I mean, I couldn't believe that I had missed this moment. I am combining in this offering my acting experience. So how I would work as an actor in a rehearsal room, on set, around a table, on an open read, whatever it might be. We would workshop things, we would work scenes, we would find the truth, we would do all of that sort of stuff. So I'm very used to that environment of trying things, of experimenting, of getting into the nitty-gritty of it. And then I, of course, have my coaching stuff. So the strategy, the process, the clarifying your message, the business savvy stuff. And I am combining those two in these press play sessions. And so these are an opportunity for people to come and work with me one-on-one and workshop whatever it is they are struggling with in terms of their business. And this, again, is not about... I've got to find a different way to say this. This is not role-playing in the traditional sense, where I'm not going to like turn up in a costume or do anything really cringe or anything like that. But what I am going to do is to be a sounding board and be somebody that you can workshop this process with. So this is perfect for all sorts of different things. And here's when I'm going to pull up my notes because I think it would be useful. So this is really about finding the gaps that are stopping you from achieving what it is that you want in terms of business. So first and foremost, this may be finding a rhythm online. And I know loads of people chat about this, like, oh, the algorithm don't see my stuff and I'm trying all of the things, but it's not working. Or sometimes people, and I've had clients like this all the time, where they're just like, I don't want to be online all the time. I don't want to drone. I don't want to feel like I have to do a tell-all Piers Morgan situation, but I know that I need to show up consistently. So this, in the first instance of pressing play, is about okay, so if you don't want to be online all the time, if you don't want to feel that you have to document your whole life, what does that mean? How can we make this work for you? So finding a visibility rhythm. So you feel like you've got some strong pillars to come back to. So every day you're not having that moment of going, oh my gosh, I've got to post today, but I don't know what I'm doing. And really building from strong foundations here. The next thing that it can be great for you. Oh, also as well, that visibility rhythm. This is about not necessarily working with trends. This is about working with your personality. So you might be somebody, for example, who doesn't want to go live, or their schedule is very unpredictable. So batching may be great for you, and really working out how you can do that consistently. And I know that I do it as well. I love it when I get into a rhythm and I can do one video after the next, and yeah, that really works well for me. The second one, and this again may be really game changing in terms of your business, because it will change things. If you can get this right, if you can feel confident with it, it's the conversation around money. And money is a difficult topic. That's not a limiting belief. I'm saying it's a difficult topic. Sorry, I've got to move. I've got cramp in my leg. Money is a difficult topic for many people, because many of us, especially people of my generation, we weren't spoken to about money. Money was very much like for other people, and it would be rude to ask, it would be rude to talk about, and we just had no education. We didn't have the internet, so we weren't watching people talking about money or income or anything like that. It was very much a hidden world. Fast forward to you then having your own business, personal brand, portfolio, career, etc. And you have created something based on your skills, your talent, your experience, etc. You then have to find a way to be able to share it and talk about it and charge for it. And this is the piece that so many of us, myself included, it has been something I've had to work on for years and years and years. How to get comfortable with the conversation of money, and how to do it in a way that feels good in our body, but also meets our business goals. And I know personally, and I know many of my clients get uncomfortable around this conversation because they don't want to come across as a sleazebag. They don't want to come across as somebody who's like selling all the time and all of those negative connotations. However, this is about reframing it. This is about you finding a way where you can have that relationship with money, with the situation, with the product or the service or the offering that you are selling. I also am really interested in workshopping these questions around selling, negotiating, saying your pricing out loud. How often has this happened when you have maybe been on a discovery call and the person says, how much is it to work with you? And you might say, oh, I'm going to email you some options, because the thought and the feeling of saying the price aloud, you might not have this situation, you might have something else, but I know a lot of my clients saying those words, communicating them and standing strong in that, especially if they want to suddenly raise their prices or go to a new level with it, that can be deeply uncomfortable. But what can happen is sometimes people just want to pay you. So you're missing out. You're making it way more long-winded than necessary. And sometimes there will be people who will want an hour of your time. You know, this happened so much in the pandemic. I was doing so many online workshops for various groups and associations and companies who were hiring me. And I found that once I did one, somebody asked me to do another one and another one, and somebody over here, and this person attended it and they thought that it would be great for those sorts of things. And they were varying structures and formats. And so when people would say things like, how much is it for you to do a half-hour Q&A? I didn't want to sit on that for 4 days and go, oh my gosh, what is the pricing? What do I want to do? I just want to be able to say it and for it to feel really good. Because generally, and I know I've got, and this is when you know that you've got into a rhythm with it. If you can say it and you can say it firmly, you can be very honest and transparent and all of that sort of stuff, that's when you'll notice things will start to move, and they will move fast. The next thing I want to talk about, let's see if my phone actually recognizes my face. It does. Beautiful. Is the next thing is about pitching and putting yourself into the mix for amazing opportunities. Now, I know what it's like to see people online doing that. Hi guys, I'm really delighted to announce that I'm doing that. And maybe you've thought, oh, I would like to do that. I'd like to be on that panel. I'd like to do a speaking event, or I would love to work with that brand. And I feel like I could contribute something. And what I figured out very quickly was that unless people actually knew who you were, they weren't just going to automatically land in your inbox. So you have to make the first move. I remember my mum actually talking about a friend of hers who was looking to go on a date. And this friend of hers would just watch telly every night. And my mum said, there's something, and she knows this, it needs to shift, because unless somebody's just going to turn up and knock on a door and happen to watch the same telly as her, it's not going to happen. This was before internet dating, but she was so right. And I think it's a bit of an odd analogy, but I think this works. It's really good to use in terms of business, in terms of putting yourself out there. I don't believe we can just sit back. I actually heard Davina McCall saying this the other day, and she was saying how much she's always pitching and doing things and sending out proposals and all of that. And yet I know that that can be a really difficult part. That moment where you go, okay, I've met this contact and they would be really good for me to be in contact with, but what do I say? How do I formulate that? And yes, you might write that lovely email and attach a CV or whatever it is that you might do. But beginning the other way round, where you speak it first, where you say, okay, I'd like to add a bit this. I really want to give this impression, or these are my top three things that I could really help with. Once you begin to unleash it and let it go and do it in your own voice, that's when you'll write the brilliant email, not necessarily the other way around. Because what can happen is when you go into the email going, right, I must not write any more than 250 words, or they'll think that I'm just wanging on, it can be really restrictive. And those emails can suddenly just become a bit cold, a bit stale, a bit formulaic. And in this crowded market, whatever your industry is, we're looking at ways that we can stand out. So somebody reads your email and they're like, oh, who's this? I haven't met them before. And also I believe that when somebody reads something, they can feel the way that it was written. And so connecting with your brand in that way, connecting with who you are, is going to give you so many pieces of information that you can add later. So what have we talked about? We've talked about finding a new visibility rhythm. We've talked about money, pricing, negotiating, all of that stuff. Pitching. The mindset stuff. Oh my goodness, this pops up so much. And frankly, I feel that I can't go to another talk, another panel where, and somebody always asks this question: how do I deal with imposter syndrome? How do I deal with it? And I have been asked, being a speaker on the panel as well, is one of the things that I always like kind of look at is I ask people to identify what their imposter syndrome is. What does it look and feel like? When does it pop up to say hello? Because imposter syndrome is such a broad term. It's like fear, it's like, I don't know, hate or insecurity or whatever it might be. And me personally, one of the best things that I have done is to get to know my gaps. And that is hugely confronting. That is not pleasant work at all. And that is like slide down the radiator and having a bit of a cry sometimes. But when you get into that nitty gritty of answers, that's when you can move to that next level. And so when I'm working with people in these press play sessions, if somebody's coming and they go, I know on a surface level that I'm good at what I do. I know I have skills. I know I've just done that bloody training. I know it went really well. I know I got good marks, or I know I've got 15 years of experience, but I'm not telling people and I don't know why, and I feel a bit insecure. Workshopping it in a session and really unpicking it is a really great way of getting to grips with it. But also, sometimes, if imposter syndrome has been with you for a while, you may have thought, well, I better do this, or I better borrow this trend, or this expert said this. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's the thing. And I want to remind you, as I remind myself all the time, sorry, this sounds a bit churchy, but it is Sunday night. But the answer is within you. And this is about listening and reconnecting with what feels good to you. It's almost that moment like with fashion. I mean, I'm wearing an old maternity dress, so who am I to be talking about fashion? But you know when you put something on and you're like, oh, this feels like me. Oh, this just seems to do what it's supposed to do. And this is the thing with your imposter syndrome, with the way that you business. Yes, Jill, yes, I can't wait to do it either. Whereas when I see fashion pages, not that I'm looking, I mean, I've got a stack of magazines here that my mum's given me from 2020, so nobody's waiting on what I'm doing this season, hopefully. But when I see like the millennials, they do a beige crop top and a beige cycling short. And I know that that is not going to be for me. I know how fashionable those things are. Beige is never going to work for me. And this is what it's all to do with your business, is you have to, or you get to, make those choices and be a bit sassy with it and say, I don't care, sir on the internet with the gold car, that you're saying to me I need to do 3 pointy videos a week. That does not feel good for me. So I am not going to do that. Thank you very much. But writing from the heart, sharing in this way, that feels really good. So once you start to have a relationship and a conversation with that imposter syndrome, that's what I'm doing in these sessions, and saying, actually, imposter syndrome, who are you? What are you all about? And what are you here to do? And then finding a way. It's almost like that moment you might have in a family party or a friendship group or something like that. There's just some people that you know that you've got to get a seat early. Otherwise, you'll end up next to the person that you might not want to end up to. It's kind of the same with imposter syndrome. We get to know it really well, and then we know what to do with it. Couple of final things. Your next level. Okay, this is about elevating for this next level of your personal brand. I know that so many of us have it in between us, and I can share a bit from interviewing people on my podcast. So I've done 125 interviews, I would say. And generally, because I've picked these people, generally, I think that all of the people that have come onto my podcast have had so much value to share. However, I have listened to many podcasts and people have done that thing where they're like, I actually did a post about this earlier, when people actually don't want the long story. You know, when someone's asked a question, they're like, well, that's a long story. How long have you got? And sometimes I'll think to myself, I mean, I've probably got 12 minutes tops. So if it's any longer than 12 minutes, gosh, I hope they're going to wrap it up. But there's nothing for your audience to gain by somebody saying, oh, it's a long story, it's going to take a while to say it. Your job as a business owner, small brand, personal brand, portfolio, career, however you identify, your job is to be the editor, to go, here's what I got. This is what it's all about. I can talk about this and this and this, and I've got this story and I've got this in my backpack. It's almost like one of those big camping rucksacks, you know, that it's got. I remember going on the Duke of Edinburgh. I mean, I think I only went once because I don't think I was cut out for it. But even like I checked in my strap and I had a little zip there. I was like, oh, brilliant. I'll put some sweets in there. Brilliant. And that's what it has to be in terms of your podcast stuff or putting yourself into the press. It's about up leveling yourself in that way and knowing that you can be ready for anything, because naturally, and I will say this from personal experience, I learned very early on in a Northern comprehensive school, we do not talk about ambition. We do not talk about how great we are. We do not put ourselves forward. As girls, we blended into the background. And that was very much the 90s culture, but I just learned to shut my mouth because it wasn't worth it. And many of us have that hangover in terms of dumbing down. Now, this is not to say be a complete a-hole and say, oh my God, I'm just fantastic at everything. We don't need to do that either. But you know when when you're being useful. You know when you can really help people and say the good stuff. And actually, if you're dumbing yourself down too much of like, well, you know, I don't really know why I do what I do or how I'm good at this, you're doing a disservice to your audience because your audience want you to win. And so that is another thing I will be doing in these press play sessions, is in a way being a bit of a pageant mum. I won't wear a shell suit, probably. I mean, I've probably got some L-net somewhere in the back of the cupboard so I could do some big hair for people. But it is very much about me saying, come on, yes, tell me more. Tell me more. You're leaving stuff behind, bring it to the table. And I'm not saying that you have to show the whole farm. You don't have to give everything on every podcast and share your life story. But I want you to pull it all out and remember all of the twists and turns and brilliant things that you have done along the way. Have I included everything? Let's see. I think I have. My final note is to find a way to do all of this in a way that works for you. And when I qualified as a coach over 10 years ago, everybody, I mean, Chelsea in a big hair. I'm there, Jill. You know it. Get ready, get surprised. My God, shell suits are so dangerous, aren't they? So when I qualified as a coach, I was one of the youngest when I did my coach training. And at that time in the UK, it felt like a bit of an underground cult, even though it wasn't. But there were a lot of people in pashminas, a lot of people who were very noddy. Everybody was quite serious as well. And of course, I am serious and I take my work seriously. But if I can find a roundabout way, hello shell suit and L-net hairspray, to be able to get into the story, I'm absolutely going to do that. And I also realized very early on, I didn't want to be one of those shouty people on the internet. And all of the YouTube adverts were like, hi, do you want to do this? And I was like, whoa, what? And it's always that moment where you didn't realize your phone was on loud and you're like, why is this person shouting at me? All those ones where, I'm sure you've seen them again, where the man's like this on the swimming pool and he's like, a lot of people ask me how I make my money. I'm like, I don't know if they do. And for a long time, I was so influenced. I felt like it was like that Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat. You know, when the brothers kind of spin him and they're putting all like their hands on him. I felt like that sort of moment. I felt bombarded with all of this stuff. And slowly but surely over time, I found a way to let go of stuff that does not work. And sometimes this has meant that I haven't done things that people have told me to do. I have bought courses, I've worked with coaches for a long period of time, and they will have that bonus section where they're just like, oh, and you get access to all of my sales scripts. And I always just think, oh, well, I'm not going to use those, because it would feel weird to learn a script when, after all I'm doing is having a conversation with somebody. And I think sometimes there is a permission piece to this of, but is that okay? Can I do it in this way? And I also look back on my first life coaching pictures, and they were they weren't quite like that, but one of them was in that chair, but I won't show you it because it's full of washing. Hashtag real life. But they were very sincere. They were very sincere. And I think we have to really click in with the way that we can do things. And I started to hear that feedback from clients when I spoke in different ways. And something actually that unlocked it for me was the mini podcasts of me doing that on my podcast. I started off doing interviews. It didn't even occur to me to share anything myself. Very bizarre. But learning how to tell stories and things like that has been really great. And people are looking for you. That is my final note. People are looking for connection right now. And they are looking to be seen, to be heard, to be recognized, to, this doesn't sound too chilled, but to be held, to have somebody that's going to hold space for them and say, yes, go on, kid, you can absolutely do this. Because when we look outside, everybody is feeling very negative at the moment. But I want you to go for what it is that you are here to do. So the press play sessions, as they are known at the moment, are coming down tomorrow, Monday. So if you want to get in on that extravaganza, do. I love doing these sessions. I've been doing them this week, and it's just really fun to unlock it and look at business and visibility and awkward conversations and doing it differently. So that's it for tonight. Yeah, that is it for tonight. All of the details are on my events page, just on my website, that you can find out. The day workshop and the online workshop are done. We are done on those, all in. And so there's just the individual sessions and the bundle of 3. But I hope you've got something from tonight. I hope you can take something away. I hope I've planted some seeds. I hope I've given you like a cozy arm round, a reminder that you are brilliant at what you do. And yeah, that's it. That's it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, there's more of this stuff on there, and equally the podcast. Share with your pals, anybody that you might think of. Oh, in terms of pricing, the individual one is £100 and the bundle of 3 is £275, but just till tomorrow. I'm going to take it down kind of later in the day tomorrow. So if you need a bit of time to think, or you've got questions for me, you know where I am. I'll be over here in my shell suit and my big hair. Actually, let me give you a sneak preview. So I have been at a child's party today, a magician, and he actually produced a rabbit. It did. I mean, I'm not quite sure how that goes with health and safety. But yes, I've got a lot of hair today, and I don't think it needs that much L-net, to be honest. Yeah, I'm going to get it bigger and bigger. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Lots of love. Good night, and have a lovely one.